Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q2 FY22 earnings conference call of Kiri Industries Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star, then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. At this time, I would like to hand the conference over to Mr. Anuj Sonpal from Valorem Advisors. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and a warm welcome to you all. My name is Anuj Sonpal from Valorem Advisors. We represent the investor relations of Kiri Industries Limited. On behalf of the company, I would like to thank you all for participating in the company's earnings conference call for the second quarter of financial year 2022. Before we begin, I'd like to mention a short cautionary statement. Some of the statements made in today's earnings con call may be forward-looking in nature. Such forward-looking statements are subject to risks and uncertainties which could cause actual results to differ from those anticipated. Such statements are based on management's beliefs as well as assumptions made by and information currently available to management. Audiences are cautioned not to place any undue reliance on these forward-looking statements in making any investment decisions. The purpose of today's earnings conference call is purely to educate and bring awareness about the company's fundamental business and financial quarter under review. Let me now introduce you to the management participating with us in today's earnings call. We have with us Mr. Manish Kiri, Managing Director, Mr. Jayesh Hirani, Senior Manager Accounts and Finance, and Mr. Suresh Kandolia, Company Secretary. Without any further delay, I request Mr. Manish Kiri to give his opening remarks. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is a pleasure to welcome you to the earnings conference call for the second quarter of financial year 2022. Kiri's standalone revenue during Q2 FY22 were 263 crore, which was 137% higher on year-on-year basis and 32% on quarter-on-quarter basis. There has been a reduction in a loss for quarter 2 FY22, which was reported at 7.4 crore against 9.61 crore in quarter 1 FY22. On a half-yearly basis, the standalone revenue were 463 crore, half 1 FY22, which increased by 158% year-on-year. The EBITDA for half 1 FY22 was negative 3.7 crore compared to negative 41.1 crore in half 1 FY21 last year. Similarly, the net loss has reduced significantly. For the half-year, net loss was 17 crore compared to 62 crore for the same period last year. The rise in crude oil prices during quarter 2 FY22 resulted in an increase in raw material cost, which impacted the company's material margins. As the cost increase could not be immediately passed on to the customers, the increase in coal and lignite prices have impacted power and fuel cost. Secondly, crude oil prices have increased freight for transportation of goods, and overall international freights have increased significantly. Legal and professional fees for litigation against Anda and Dystar in Singapore courts, which are non-recurring and exceptional in nature, are included in the operational expenses, impacting the company's EBITDA. The working capital cycle has been gradually strengthening and is expected to further improve in the coming quarters. Inventory turnover has decreased from 84 days to 36 days on year-on-year basis. Similarly, trade receivables have decreased from 248 days to 107 days, which is almost near normalized numbers. And receivables recovery has improved from 132 to 47 days on year-on-year basis. For quarter 2 FY22, consolidated revenue has significantly turned around. The company achieved a consolidated turnover of 358 crores, which was 105% higher on year-on-year basis and up by 22% on quarter-on-quarter basis. The EBITDA reported for the quarter was 28 crore, which increased by 21% quarter-on-quarter basis. The EBITDA margin for the quarter was 7.8% and the net profit was 12.4 crore, which is an increase of 82.4% quarter-on-quarter basis. On a half-yearly basis, total consolidated revenues for half one FY22 amounts to 651 crore, which is an increase of 129% year-on-year. The EBITDA stands at 48 crore compared to loss of 56 crore for the same period last year. And the net profit was 19 crore compared to a loss of 38 crore for the same period last year. Quarter 2 FY22 experienced volatility and increase in coal and crude oil prices, which led to sharp increase in raw material cost, power, fuel, and logistics expenses. During the quarter, there was a 4% increase in raw material consumption cost, 22% increase in power and fuel costs, and 28% increase in logistics expenses for exports on quarter-on-quarter basis. In the backdrop of uncertain periods of COVID-19 during FY21, consolidated material margin got impacted during quarter 2 FY22 because of volatile markets leading to sharp increase in input costs, which could not be passed on to the customers, impacting material margins. The uncertainties in business environment because of COVID-19 pandemic are now a matter of past. Secondly, the increase in input cost is now getting stabilized during quarter 3 FY22, which shall be the enabling factor to attain momentum and growth in coming quarters for the current fiscal. Coming to Kiri's minority operation suit, as you may already know by now, that Singapore International and Commercial Court has awarded a final valuation of $481.6 million for Kiri's 37.57% stake in Dystar. Both Kiri and Senda have filed appeals against SICC order dated 21 December 2020, 21 June 2021 with Court of Appeal in Supreme Court of Singapore. And Kiri has also filed appeal against SICC order dated 17 March 2021, and the Supreme Court shall hear all appeals on any of the days between 24 to 28 January 2022. In another case against Dystar, SICC has delivered judgment on 24 September 2021 on Kiri's counterclaim against Dystar in SIC 7 2020 and has dismissed Kiri's counterclaim and awarded all-in cost of Singapore dollar 1.37 million to Dystar. The company has filed appeal with Court of Appeal against the said order, and hearing dates are awaited. Lastly, coming to future outlook, as you may be already aware that the Indian chemical sector is on the cusp of very high growth trajectory in the coming years. Exports of dyes and dyes intermediates increased by 41% and 16% respectively in April to September 2021 period, mainly because of low base of exports in the same period last year. The exports from India are set to strengthen in coming months because of ease of doing business, creation of plug-and-play investment manufacturing environment across various industrial corridors, and launch of production-linked incentive schemes. Further reduction of custom duty will have stark effect on shipping costs, thereby giving much impetus to exports from India. Now I would like to open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Ashit Koti, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Manish bhai.
Good afternoon.
Hope this Diwali and New Year will bring in much better things for Kiri.
Same wishes for you too. Thank you.
And the shareholders also. Now, sir, two things which I just wanted to understand. One was we have share of profit of associates,
Right.
which we are showing in quarter 2 as 888 million.
Correct.
And on half yearly basis, we are showing as 1725 million. So that means 172 crore,
Correct.
if I understood it rightly. And whereas we are saying profit after tax of 192 million, that means 19.2 crore. Have I understood it rightly, sir, or is there a mistake from my side?
Just to clarify your understanding, hold on, we'll just open up. You're talking about the consolidated statements, right?
Yeah.
Consolidated statements, earnings of,
Share of profit of associates.
right, which is 88.77 crore. So your earnings after tax would be 101.16 crore.
Right. So what I wanted to understand was this 88
plus
88 crores from profit of associates, which includes which all companies or which all associates?
That's only Dystar.
That's only Dystar. So 124 is only ours. Is a standalone part? How do you take profit after tax 124? Does that include anything of Dystar? No.
The profit after tax is 101.16 crore, to be precise. Right?
Okay.
At 101.16, out of that, 88.77 crore is from Dystar. And 19 crore is the, sorry, 12.35 crore. So 12.38 plus 88.77. That amounts to total 101.16.
So 12.38 is only Kiri's profit, right?
Yes, 12.30 is Kiri consolidated profit, Kiri, Longchen Kiri, and other subsidiaries all put together.
Okay. So this 888 is basically Dystar Singapore.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Sir, when are we moving away from commoditized product portfolio to real value added? Because it's been quite a long journey. I mean, it's after 2019. If I am not wrong, we are downhill.
Yeah, we are quite also keen to have the product mix of change of portfolio to be kicked in. Hopefully we should start seeing the numbers change due to the new products added in from this quarter. So we hope that you will have a better change in this quarter, and that is where we are moving in this quarter. So now onwards, as market improves, you will see the changes in our product mix improvements.
Can you throw some light on those new product mix, sir?
Mainly coming from the specialty intermediates. So there are a host of products which we started in phase 1, and those have started also moving in the market. So that is where we will see the numbers coming.
But the specialty intermediates would continue, would be towards which industries specifically?
There are 3 industries, if you remember the earlier discussion. So one is definitely dyes intermediates, so as a dye industry. Second is performance chemicals for performance industry, and some part is also used in agrochemicals. So it's 3 industries in which it would be serving.
Percentage-wise, would you be in a position to?
Yeah, around 50% would remain, 50 to 60% would remain for dyes industry, and I would say 40% would be other products on dyes industry.
Okay, I'll again come in the queue for further questions.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have any follow-up, may we request you to rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Vishal Srinivas Jaju from Tycoon Mindset. Please go ahead.
Good evening, team. So I just want to know, like how our export market is performing, because I guess the most of the textile businesses are, seeing reverse back are actually at least more than the pre-COVID levels in their export market for textiles. And as in our chemicals part, we are, not like still back to pre-COVID levels, and even margins are impacted. So just want to get to know, like, how is the industry levels going on in the export market for the dyes intermediates, and also for the domestic market, if you can just give a small idea on that.
Right. See, the export markets for dyes are coming back to almost pre-COVID levels. There has been quite volatility on the price front. So there were quite a lot of fluctuations which we have seen on a price front, and that would be that is one of the factors would be affecting or postponing some of the demands which we couldn't see last quarter, which will come in this quarter. But we see that the exports is on monthly basis is now starting to get regularized at the same level as pre-COVID level.
So are the margins coming back to the same levels like that what we have like on a standalone basis also? Pre-COVID times, I guess, including those legal and all the costs, we were still about like around 10% at OPM margins, and currently our OPM margins on a standalone basis is still going negative. So just want to get to know whether the margins are still coming back to the pre-COVID levels or still there is some lag.
No, margins, the sales would come back, but because of the increase in the raw material cost, energy cost, and all other costs which I just mentioned, all of those cost increases we couldn't pass on to the customers, and that was the reason that our margin still continue to remain on a lower side or neutral or better side last quarter. So this quarter we expect that the prices are increasing to a level that raw material increases are passed on and the profits are also maintained. So hopefully from this quarter onwards we are expecting that the margins on the price increases would also be sufficient enough to maintain the profits. Because there has been price increases, and those price increases have been absorbed by the cost increases. Again, legal expenses are ongoing, and legal expenses would continue to go on to continue at the same speed till January end, because the final hearings are January end. So we expect that the legal expenses would continue to incur.
Okay. So, sir, we don't have a hedging policy for the raw materials, right?
There is the practically hedging is not possible in the raw material side, because when the raw material prices increase, most of the raw materials are supplied by one or two companies in India or from outside also. So where you have no choice but to pay the price increases the day it happens. So whether you buy from Reliance, you buy from GNFC, you buy from other companies, the moment the prices are increased, even products like caustic, soda ash, you have to pay instantly the increase in raw material prices. That long-term orders or even existing orders have to be amended. That is how the raw material markets operate and the basic chemicals market operates. So you can only use your low-cost raw material to the extent you have stock. But otherwise, you will have to pay the increase instantly the day it is implemented. That is how it operates practically.
Okay, so I guess it would take more 2 to 3 quarters for us to be back at least at the pre-COVID at OPM levels, like margins levels. Sales might be there, but that must be because of, I guess, the inflated prices which are going on. But margins will be back to pre-COVID level after 2 to 3 quarters, or we are expecting some more delay?
It will start coming to pre-COVID level from this quarter, because last quarter is the one in which all pass on of the cost has already happened.
Okay.
We couldn't make profit. Let me put it this way, but we could pass on whatever increases that have occurred, right, in the last quarter. But this quarter, because of the prices further increasing, we would have profitability in addition to passing on the price increases which have already taken place.
Okay. And sir, just last one question. Sir, actually we have our borrowings like at almost we are almost at no borrowing levels, and we have some other plans to divest in some other areas as well. So apart from non-die segment, which you said, like you want to plan to invest in those segments in the previous calls. So are we planning, to take up the debt levels, because currently the interest rate are, I guess, also at the lower end. So are we planning, to take up the debt levels and start up with the new sectors, new geographies as well, and in the newer product stream as well, so that we can have at least the best business time after 1 to 2 years in other areas as well?
Not in this financial year. We would not borrow in this financial year. We would first make business stabilized, and we would first ensure that our working capital, the market, margins, all are on track. So our efforts would be on business rather than incurring new investment and new capex. As we mentioned earlier, we will complete the second phase of specialty intermediates plant towards the end of the financial year, which is just a pending implementation compared to a fresh investments, which we are not going to do in this financial year.
Okay, so expansion would be only basis of the Dystar funds, right?
That would happen in the year 2022-23.
Yes, that would be nice.
It's not like we would never borrow in life. Okay?
Yes.
Opportunity arises when we see good projects to ensure that we have adequate return on equity. 2022-23, we will see what is the best mix of equity and debt, and we will borrow in years to come.
Okay. So, sir, do inorganic expansion or acquisition make sense in this industry? Because I don't know much about the industry on the intermediate side. So, just want to know, does the inorganic acquisitions make sense?
It would make sense if valuations are right, and if proper size companies are available. So there would be some opportunities which may grow up in global market, if not in India.
Okay.
Right? But there is no target currently in radar. There are no decisions on that front, and we haven't been approached by any companies offering their companies to us. So nothing like that has on today on the table.
Got it. Thank you. That's it from my side. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. The next question is from the line of VP Rajesh from Banyan Capital. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity, and good afternoon, Mr. Manish and the team. Just first question, how much did we spend on the legal expenses in the current quarter and for the 6 months? This is regarding the Dystar litigation.
How much is the number? So our run rate per quarter ranges from 6 crores, 5 to 6 crores to 9 crores, right? Now, the last quarter, one is the legal expenses and second legal fees, and second is legal expenses, because both incur. So when you put together, in last quarter it was little bit more than 7 crore.
Okay. And for the 6 months?
For the 6 months must be more than 15 crore.
Okay. And my second question is that you talked about your EBITDA margins improving from the current quarter. So what should be the expectations? Are we thinking about back to low teens kind of multiple, or it will be a gradual move up in this quarter and the next to see 12-13 kind of percent EBITDA margin?
I think this quarter, based on the 1.5 months which has already passed, and looking at our order book, we should be somewhere in the range of 7 to 10%. This is our prediction. This is the forecast. And then gradually next quarter it can go up. But again, all these numbers after legal expenses.
Right. Okay. Understood. Thank you. I'll get back in the queue.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bhavesh Khandelwal from RII. Please go ahead.
Sure. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for the opportunity. My question is, I think if I remember correctly, last time you said that we will be doing something. We will be revamping the organization, and hiring has been done, and we are hiring a lot of other, senior management and doing something else. So, can you put some light on it, and how are we on it? Because we haven't heard any official communication on that part.
Right. See, we have been hiring several more people also in the current quarter, and improving just our management bandwidth for future projects. So there are no announcements done because which were not required at this point, and some of the people who have been taken on board would take some time to be permanent with us. So we will see how things move. But yes, the hiring is ongoing, and team building is also ongoing, and we are improving our management bandwidth, especially for future projects, not for current business.
Yeah, got it. And second thing, sir, on the future outlook, I wanted to basically know, like if, for example, like Bangladesh favorable export destination has been, I think, expiring maybe in 1 or 2 years. I'm not sure about the timeline. So, do you think it will benefit Kiri as a company, or as a Chinaman policy? If you just put a highlight on it.
I think it would definitely benefit us as Kiri, because Bangladesh is an important market. Bangladesh has been one of the top 2 exporters for us as well as for industry as a whole. So that would benefit us for sure, and that would help us to increase our exports to Bangladesh in the next few years. There are also further logistics improvements with Bangladesh, because now trains have started even from Ahmedabad ICD. There are specific trains recently started for direct exports to Bangladesh. So not being dependent on only containers, which have now become a kind of a very high freights and high cost affairs. So this train movements between India and Bangladesh would also benefit from logistics point of view, from speed point of view, because it's improving from both the sides from infrastructure point of view. So Bangladesh is going to be an important market for textile as well as for dyes. That would benefit Kiri. Number 2, if you have seen recent announcements by the government, several textile parks are going to be set up in India all across, right? And those incentives to textiles, boost of textiles, the targets for more than 100 billion textile exports, which government is trying to set up to support textile industry, that all will benefit, and that all will provide growth opportunities for dyes to sell within India also.
Mm-hmm. It's a last question, if I can ask. So basically, like there's a lot of supply chain disruption, and because of which the raw material prices are too high. Especially if you talk about So do you think, is it going to be it's normal going forward in coming 1 or 2 months, or it will take more time?
Based on our current assessment, we don't see prices coming down significantly before December. We don't see much hope that the raw material prices would reduce. If January to March quarter, when we see that the basic chemicals start going down in China as well as globally, we may expect some reduction, but not till December. We don't see any possibility of reduction in any major raw material prices before the end of this calendar year.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Namit Mehta from KC Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi Manish bhai, hope all is well.
Yes, all well. Thank you. Thank you for participating. Thank you, Nimish bhai. Please go ahead.
Of course, just a couple of questions from my side. So one is, I know from over the last couple of years you plan to move the standalone business from let's say 1,000 crore to roughly 1,800 to 2,000 crore in a couple of years. How do you see that target as of now? Do you still, want to keep that guidance, or are we seeing it evolving based on, where you will allocate capital over the next few years?
I think that target still remains. Unfortunately, last 1.5, 2 years, we got all tied up with this COVID effects. But now, having that behind us, I hope that we can have that target now restarted from this financial year. So hopefully in a year or two, we should be able to ramp up because we have capacities. We have already put capital in earlier plants, which we already established. And now it is only a matter of ramping up production, improving sales, increasing export, and utilizing our already invested assets. So that would be our number one and the first attempt to ramp up the standalone numbers, sales, as well as margins both. That would remain priority. Regarding your second point for the new expansions or investing into new projects, that we will see in 2022-23, but not currently.
Understood. And just to confirm, so once we go ahead with the phase 2 capacity expansion, that's basically all that's required for the revenue expansion to go to 1,800 to 2,000 crore, right?
Right, and not the additional capex.
Got it. And then just one other question in the vein of what another participant asked about management building. If you can just talk a little bit about your organizational building efforts as you go to become future ready. If you can talk a little bit more about what you've done outside of even just team building, either in terms of business plan development, environmental clearances, and so on.
Right. So see, there are several objectives for which we have strengthened the management, and we are strengthening. One is, as you rightly said, we have one area of people who have been applying various environmental clearances on various lands that the company has, right? Number two, also in specialty chemicals, there are various different products, and we have tried to hire people specialized in those product ranges or in those product sectors. So we have, for example, there is benzene, nitrobenzene derivatives, area for so we are studying those. We have got people on that. There are some areas which are related to fertilizers and other byproducts, so we have got people for that. And we have also got several technical people added in our lab, which are now studying, reviewing, checking, products such as APIs and pharma sectors. So we have selected people from different sectors to both technical side, environmental compliance side, and also project and commercial business preparation side. So our in-house team has been preparing various techno-economic feasibility studies. We have hired 3 to 4 outside agencies also to work with this team, and that is how we have collected people who have experience in various fields. So that's where we are trying to build ourselves.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Manish.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of B. Suresh, an individual investor. Please go ahead. Mr. Suresh, we are unable to hear you. If you can take the phone off speaker or come closer to...
Hello?
Yes, sir. This is better. If you can be a little loud, sir.
Sure. Okay, sir. My voice is clear? Hello? Sir, my voice is clear?
Yeah, this is better, sir.
Sir, the court date is January 2022. It's the final judgment, sir. It have take more time.
Yes, January 24 to 28. These are the days in which there would be one day. Based on our latest information, it would be January 24 itself, but it could be any one day between January 24 and 28.
This is the final judgment, sir. Is there any postponement?
So this is the final one. This is the final hearing, and the judgment will come after that. But this is the final hearing of the appeal in Supreme Court. And good thing is that whatever appeals that both the sides have filed on various points and all the orders related to valuation, all those appeals are consolidated. And when the hearing takes place, it will cover all the appeals which relates to valuations which are filed from both the sides.
Sir, one more question, sir. This is the amount is received. You can distribute the dividend or any capex in further investment in the same field or another field. You can distribute the dividend. How to use this amount?
Sorry, I couldn't understand your question because of lot of people coming.
Actually, you can state it clear. You can receive the amount. You can that amount you can use the investment and capex, and you can distribute the dividend.
Yeah, it's both. The breakup precise number has not been decided yet because we are still waiting the final number from the Supreme Court. Hopefully, it would continue. It would have the same number what International Court decided, or it. So that's the hope. But let us see if it is changed. Then looking at that, the broad usage is what you rightly said. It will be used for the further future investments, and some part would also go back to shareholders. Yes.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Hemant Kanungo, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Sir, I just want to ask, sir, as we know that Senda, the Dystar has been consistently making profit post the 2000 itself after the verdict, 2018 verdict. So is there not a way when we can ask Supreme Court to, at least release our share of earnings, that is 37.5% of earnings, so that, it won't lead to further operation of Kiri industry?
See, it's from the legal point of view, from July 3rd, 2018, right, the date on which the valuation for Kiri is decided, right, technically that is what the number that we are entitled to receive, right? But as you very rightly said, since that date till now, even though Kiri continued to hold shares and transaction has not been completed, so there is a big difference between the valuation date of July 3rd and the transaction date when actually Kiri shares are bought and amount is paid. And it's not few months, but you are looking at almost 3 years time gap between these two, right?
Yeah.
So Kiri must be entitled to get something, either profit or interest, or that there has to be some upside that Kiri has to get for this particular period, and that point is also in appeal. So when Kiri has demanded the interest or the enhancement of his value between July 2000.
Yes, sir. But I want to add one thing. We can ask that whatever the amount of our share of earnings is, we can always get it adjusted from the final valuation figure, because that won't even soften our stand, because we are not asking a particular amount. We are just asking our share of earnings. And that we can get it adjusted from the final valuation figure, what will be decided by the Supreme Court board, like by the 3,500 crore. So if Dystar is making 100 crores, so we can ask our 37 crores to be released and get it adjusted from the 3,500 crore whenever. Because if that way Dystar can delay the judgment, and we will be considering we are further facing operation from Dystar.
See, the judgment, the hearing of the Supreme Court and the judgment of Supreme Court will follow the court timelines which have been fixed now, number one. Number two, Dystar doesn't owe any money to Kiri. It is Senda which owes to Kiri. Correct?
Yes,
right?
Yes, right.
So legally speaking, we do not have right to collect money from Dystar, but we do have right to collect money from Senda. Right?
Yes.
Right. So Dystar's profit is not Senda's profit from legal standpoint. So the guilty party is Senda and not Dystar. So court would not order anything against Dystar to pay to Kiri. Right? That is number one.
Okay.
Number two, so that is where the two entities are different. Number two, we already proposed to Senda and to their lawyers, and the correspondents are also with courts, that whatever their side of an amount of $323 million, at least put that amount in the escrow.
Right.
And Kiri has already proposed, which is under discussion, to open an escrow account and put this money there, because irrespective of what is the outcome of Supreme Court, right?
Yes.
The amount which is there from their side must be paid anyway, correct?
Right.
Put that in escrow, even if not given to Kiri, but at least that shows commitment to pay. Correct?
Yes, correct. Sir.
So that aspect and that proposal is still under discussion between both the parties, and also corresponds are ongoing with the court.
Okay, sir. And my second question is, we are also owning a co-company with the Longsen in India. So are we facing some similarity of operation, from Longsen, like in terms of, involving us in the management practice and also, sharing the dividends with the company? So are we getting the regular dividends from Kiri Longsen, or we are facing similar operation?
We are facing similar operation at there too, and we are victim of not paying dividend at Longsen Kiri also. Correct?
Yes. Okay.
There are no legal battles started between both the parties, but yes, they have behaved the same way at Longsen Kiri too, and operation at Longsen Kiri still exists.
Okay, sir. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nandan Khambate, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. I have two questions. First is again related to Dystar thing. Once the Supreme Court judgment comes in January last week, is there any way that Longsen or either Kiri can appeal to another forum?
No.
International Court of Law, etc.?
No, there is no further appeal. Let me just rectify. As I mentioned earlier, January 24 to 28 is a hearing date, not the judgment date, right? Okay. So judgment come afterwards, after hearing. But there is no further court, there is no any upper court, or there is no other place to go to appeal for anyone.
Okay. So January last week is the final hearing?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And sir, what is the appeal made by Senda in this case? So are they sticking to 323 or the figure which you just mentioned? Or what is the appeal which they have filed against the order, SICC order?
The appeal is only now dealing with the valuation, with the number, right? Okay. Whether to pay Kiri or not, whether Kiri has suffered minority operation or not, whether the buyout order is a right order or not, all these matters have already been heard, decided, upheld by Supreme Court already. So this hearing of Supreme Court and Senda's appeal is to only lower the valuation number. Correct?
Okay.
So Senda's valuer, if you go through the judgment, the earlier judgment, it says that the Senda side presented $323 million as Kiri stake, for the Kiri stake. Correct? So they will attempt to reduce the number from 481.6 towards 323. And Kiri has also appealed. Kiri's attempt would be to increase the number from 481.6 to 750, because Kiri also has several points which are strongly in favor of Kiri that can be argued at the appeal. So both the parties will only fight for a number. That is the only matter in Supreme Court to give what number.
Okay. So, sir, in this case, are we going for dual prayer? That is, if court accepts 700 or 750, the claim which Kiri is making, If that is fine, but if they reject and they stick to 482, have we also paid for interest on that? Have we made a dual payer in that case?
Sorry, but what is your question?
No, while filing an appeal, have we made a dual prayer citing our claim, Kiri's claim is say 7 crore 750 or what the actual number may be, and the court does not accept that and sticks to the 482 valuation, are we also praying for the interest portion? So are we praying two things?
Yes. We are also appealing. One of the main points in appeal is interest portion, correct?
What is the interest rate, sir, in that case which you have claimed?
It's a fixed interest rate in Singapore, 5.33% per year.
Okay. Fine, sir. And last question.
Mr. Kambate, so sorry to interrupt, but for any follow-up, may we request you to rejoin the queue, please? Thank you. The next question is from the line of Prashant Hazariwala, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Prashant ji, please.
So, if I will take out this legal cost, what will be the EBITDA margin for standalone entities?
If you see annually, the legal cost, if I give you the number now, has ranged somewhere between 35 to 40 crore per year.
Okay.
Right. So if you take half yearly, 15, 17, 20 crore, something like that. That is how. So if you take it out, then your EBITDA would be at least 6 on quarterly basis or half yearly. It would be around 6 to 7%.
6 to 7% for last quarter?
For half year, this financial year.
Half year. What about the last quarter?
This financial year. I mean, starting from April till September.
Right. No, but what about the last quarter in September quarter?
September quarter legal cost was even higher. So last quarter and this quarter together, we just reworked the number. It was more than 15, close to 17 crore.
If I'm taking out this last quarter only legal cost, what will be the EBITDA margin? For the last quarter only.
Last quarter 250, 63. And
200 CR last quarter.
Around 4%. Around 4% would be last quarter's EBITDA margin.
All right. So when I'm comparing ourselves with our peers like Bodal and Cam or something like that, they have done much better than what we have done on the EBITDA margin, and they even given a good profit compared to the last year, same quarter.
Right.
So where we have lose our competitiveness or EBITDA kind of thing?
Yeah, for that let me explain you in two parts. Okay. One part is that maybe they have been able to, because see, they are more of intermediate players, and we are dies and intermediate players 50-50. Aksharcam, Bulgaria, they are just pure intermediate players. Okay. And for intermediates, the passing on price increases or cost increases to customer is much earlier. While for dies to pass on to customers take longer time. Right? So that is one factor where they might be able to pass on price increases to their customers earlier than what we could. Number one, correct? Number two, there are certain intermediates that Kiri produces for Longshan Kiri, which goes for Longshan Kiri, and then Longshan Kiri sells dies. So there is a different structure here. So when you look at the consolidated numbers of Kiri, it gives you a better picture or a clear picture compared to a standalone number, because consolidated number without Dystar would give you the intermediate capturing of the margin as well as dies capturing of the margin at Longshan Kiri level. Because in Kiri, dies are produced in two companies. One, Kiri standalone, and second is Longshan Kiri. While if you compare, for example, Bodal, their dies are produced only at one level, while our dies are produced at two levels.
Okay.
So for that, when you look at the consolidated margin, that gives you a true picture, in fact, of what we have actually earned by selling dyes directly from Kiri and also by selling dyes through Longchen Kiri for Kiri's portion of 40%. So let us say if you look at the consolidated EBITDA number, which is close to 8%, and if you add around another 5%, let us say for half a year, you will come to around 12-13%, which would be in line with what they have done.
Right. And the other question is like before 6 months con call, like at the end of the year 2021, FY21, you said there is no problem in Longchen and Kiri, this joint venture. Now you are saying that we are facing the same kind of problem, right? So how these kind of things will, because we have not yet settled down this Dystar problem, and we are going into another problem. And Dystar problem has taken almost 4 or 5 years after we claim, right? So,
let me clarify. There is a clarity required you. If you understand question properly, okay, and my answer properly, there are operational problems or there are management problems or company problems. There are no such problems. Number one, company is operating, running, managed, operated, run by actually Kiri. That's one.
Which one, Longchen and Kiri?
Question, Longchen Kiri, yes.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Right. The second question, what was asked to me by the gentleman, are we facing minority operations in Longchen Kiri? That's a different question, correct? For that, my answer is yes, because since 2009 till now, Longchen Kiri has also not paid a single rupee of dividend to Kiri, even though being debt-free, correct? So it may be operating, it is generating profits, it's a normal business operations, but do we also face minority operation in Longchen Kiri? That's why my answer is yes. I hope I'm able to explain to you.
But this company is run by Kiri only, right?
Correct. But to management dividend is a majority directors, isn't it?
So are they taking dividend, or they are also not taking any dividend?
Also not taken dividend.
Nobody has taken dividend, right?
Nobody has taken dividend since 2009. Correct.
So all the accrual is happening into the Longchen Kiri, right?
Yes, correct.
So we are a good part of this management, or we are having some how this management board is working?
The management, the board is structured with 3 directors from Longchen and 2 directors from Kiri, right? But the management, managing director and operations are all belong to Kiri.
Okay, all right, no problem. Thank you very much. Thanks.
The board matters have majority with Longchen.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohit Aswa, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. I have 2 questions regarding the January hearing. The first is, does the hearing have to get completed in 1 day, or can it further get extended and we get 1 more day later on? And second is, based on our experience with Singapore court now for years, when do we expect the judgment to be delivered after the hearing is completed?
The first answer, as per the current indication from the court, the hearing would be just 1 day. So only 1 day would be given for arguments. Number 2, based on our prior experience with Supreme Court and in general the judgments, the way Supreme Court gives post hearings, our earlier judgment has come in 22 days from the hearing date, and it has taken maximum about 2 months time also. So we can expect that within couple of months the judgment can come.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. I had 1 more question regarding FCCB conversions as well. I understand we have about 1.2 crores FCCB conversion pending by January 17. What is the status on that?
Till now, we have not received the conversion notices, but hopefully before January they might come. The moment we receive, we'll announce.
Okay. And if they don't come, sir, then what are the options we have?
If it doesn't come, then then the company will return FCCB money, and that would not be converted then. Finished.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashit Koti, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Sir, with regards to Longchen Kiri, I mean, say when we have faced this problem of 5 years at Singapore court, and suppose if we have to again fight it out in Indian courts, the amount of time, efforts, money which would go in fighting it out would be huge.
Yeah, fighting out for what?
Either to get paid for whatever time, efforts invested by Kiri in Longchen Kiri.
Right.
Or if they are not, then you are fighting it out to acquire the control.
Yeah, so you mean to say management control Kiri already has. You mean to say for fighting out for separation, correct?
Yes.
Right, to get separated. So separation, that is what you are indicating, right?
Yeah.
So we will have a discussion because till now, what I understand, both the parties have been dealing with the Daistar dispute and the legal battle at Daistar level, correct?
Right.
There is no legal battle in this entity, in Longchen Kiri, but we would always endeavor to settle and to discuss, mutually to figure out if we can separate mutually. If not, yes, then again it would be spinning into the courts for the separation purpose. But let us see what happens. It would be speculative for me to say that once Daistar is separated, I think both the parties will have the senses to prevail and try to figure out to separate amicably. I hope so. But and there could be a legal battle, yes.
And where does Daistar stand today? I mean, say if they have to make the payment to you at one shot, are their balance sheet that much strong enough to pay you in one shot?
Yes, balance sheet is very strong.
Okay.
Balance sheet of Longchen is also extremely strong, and Daistar is also zero debt, and Daistar has a very high significant cash sitting in there.
Okay. So in a way, we are going to miss out on the huge potential which Daistar was offering at when 2009 we acquired. We lost a decade and more, and yet we also lost some market share indirectly.
I didn't understand what you are saying.
We lost one more than a decade in Daistar, management bandwidth and otherwise. And we also lost some market share indirectly, because now Daistar is no more going to be with us.
No, Daistar, Kiri has not supplied a single kilo of material to Daistar since 2014. Just to clarify, Daistar is no longer a customer of Kiri since 2014. So Kiri hasn't lost earlier anything. Kiri has not lost. Kiri has its own set of customers, distributors. Kiri has its own products. So Kiri has not lost anything in terms of its sales or market share with Daistar, number one. Okay. Number two, Kiri invested 10 years ago 95 or close to 100 crores. And after this court battle, after 10 years, that 100 crores of Kiri's investment, right, has grown into $481.6 million, which is close to 3,700 crores. So for 10 years, it's not a bad investment, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. No doubt about it.
Correct. And there is no loss of market share, just to correct you.
Since we did not supply, no loss of market share, but the purpose of acquiring Daistar was to get into the lucrative European market, which we are not right now.
European market for dyes industry is no longer lucrative because there is no textile left in Europe.
Okay, so it's only China and third world countries?
It's only Asia, Turkey, Honduras, Central America, Brazil. These are the places who do textile processing. So Dystar sales of dyes in Europe itself is much lesser, and the largest is in Asia.
Capital work in progress 578.
So sorry to interrupt. May we request you to rejoin the queue, please? The next question is from the line of VP Rajesh from Banyan Capital. Please go ahead.
Thanks again. Just a quick question. What was the capacity utilization in the September quarter?
Yes. Yeah, we'll give you just now. Hold on. For dyes at a quantum level, what is our capacity utilization in the quarter? Dyes capacity utilization in 36%. Is 36%. Capacity utilization. Okay, and intermediates? 88%. 37% to be precise is the dyes capacity utilization. Intermediate capacity utilization is 88%.
Okay. And what do you expect it to be in this quarter, given things are getting better?
Yeah, this quarter the prices, the margin-wise prices would be better compared to last quarter. And dyes capacity utilization, we should be able to touch close to 50%. And our endeavor is intermediate capacity utilization also increases to 95%.
Okay, great. Thank you and all the best.
Sure.
Thank you. As there are no further questions, I now hand the conference over to the management for their closing comments. Over to you, members of the management.
Thanks to everyone for joining today, and we'll see you next quarter. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Kiri Industries Limited, that concludes this conference. We thank you all for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.